TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
What's the word, basketball nerds? We're back. Dynamics on the hardwood here live with you. It's Mozzie. It's Live Zone. How we doing today, Live Zone?
Got a lot to talk about. We're going to go to the NBA side other than the NFL side. We got a lot coming to you. A lot's happening. We got the new Christmas layout that we got going on. Yeah, let's get right into it.
We're hopping over to the Bay Area, near and dear to my heart. In the background right here, Golden State Warriors had a trade go down, and this was a one-sided trade, if you ask me. Live Zone, I'll pass it to you. Let's break down the trade. Tell me what you're feeling off of the trade, and who won.
So what we got in the trade is we got Dennis Schroeder going over to the Golden State Warriors. We then have DeAnthony Melton and a second round pick going to the Brooklyn Nets. I think that it's a win for the Golden State Warriors, but at what cost? Like we said last week, the Warriors they're not playing team basketball right now. It's not a collective unit. They're putting their stars or their most important players on the bench, and Buddy Hield and Draymond Green, which makes me think that they're ready to move on from them. Maybe not. Maybe we're not seeing something that they are. But after getting Dennis Schroeder, there should be no reason why Buddy Hield is on the bench. So I see that as a slap in the face to Buddy Hield mostly, and it really looks like they're gonna move Buddy to the bench. They're gonna run a 2 point guard set with Steph Curry and Dennis Schroeder. It's gonna look good for a few weeks, but we'll see what happens when they run into some problems with height and everything going against a team like the Dallas Mavericks that has over a 6 foot guard in Luka Doncic, or Phoenix Suns team that is running a two shooting guard lineup instead of a 2 point guard lineup. So we're going to see what happens on the defensive side, but the offensive side looks great for Golden State. As for the Brooklyn Nets, this just shows me that the Brooklyn Nets are still not ready to go in on talent. They're still rebuilding. They're still at square one, and they're doing all they can to get as many draft picks as possible because of the bad trade that they made a few years back with the Boston Celtics that led to being Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So there's a lot there. Brooklyn Nets still not going to be a winning team. And then after that, the Warriors, yes, they look good at the moment, but we'll see what happens when they run into defensive problems.
Yeah, so trade overall, definitely feeling like Golden State got the bag out of this one. Dennis Schroeder, solid player all his time in the NBA. Let's look at what they gave up essentially in DeAnthony Melton. You know, he's been in the league for 7 years. He's only played above 60 games for 2 of those seasons. He's averaged 9 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds per year. This year, little up from that in points, little down in rebounds, right at the same in assists. 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists this year. And then Golden State goes out, trades him off with a pick to a Brooklyn Nets team that's not going to be in our conversation for even a playoff spot for a few years. So they pick up Dennis Schroeder, which this is a no-brainer trade. I mean, the guy's played 60 or more games, 8 out of the 12 seasons that he's been in the NBA. He averages 14 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds per game over his entire career. And this year, right now, he's averaging 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists. And you said that they could run the 2 point guard option. So he's coming off the bench with these numbers for your team. He's putting up Jimmy Butler numbers right now this season. Jimmy Butler has almost the same exact stats. He's got one more. He's averaging one more rebound and two more, or the same amount of assists and two more rebounds per game, same amount of points. So you're literally adding a Jimmy Butler to your Golden State Warriors team to come off the bench for you, and you're also sitting Draymond and Buddy Hield on that. So it's like, I don't know what they're really doing with their system there, but the pieces that they have are extremely interesting. And if they can figure out how to work them in and work them right and create the right load management for everyone on that team, I think it's a very interesting future for this Golden State Warriors offense. Defense, you said, leaves something to be desired because of that height. But in the league for the offensive side of things, I don't think the height's going to matter at all. It's a 3-point game. You have the Boston Celtics shooting 63s a game, trying to make 30 of them and break a record. Like, everybody's doing that in the NBA now. So I don't think the height really matters. But on the defensive side, I think a team can go down and score 2 points on you, no problem. But if you're a team like the Golden State Warriors, you're making threes. You're giving up twos on the other side. I still think you win the game, win most games.
So that's the problem, right? Like we look at Dennis Schroeder, and the only time that he has had a year like this, other than this year, is when he was on the Atlanta Hawks, when the Atlanta Hawks were decimated, just like the Brooklyn Nets. So of course, Dennis Schroeder is a talented player. He's gonna go out and he's going to get buckets when he's the only one scoring the ball. Of course, this is what I'm talking about. It's not about team basketball in Golden State. It's about self-play right now, and I don't know if I like that compared to a team like the Boston Celtics that's playing great team basketball, probably the best team basketball that we've seen in years. So I'm looking at it as, yes, it's a good trade because you got something out of nothing. But at the end of the day, Dennis Schroeder is a lot better on teams that are decimated than teams that are contending. And we saw it with the Boston Celtics a few years back when he was part of the Boston Celtics. He could not play in a system where they were ready to win. He wants the ball in his hands too much. He wants to shoot threes way too much. So yes, it makes sense for him to be on the Golden State Warriors team that looks decimated as it is right now. And yes, I know that I'm hating on a team that's still in the playoff picture, but you got to look at it as if we're in the playoffs. Dennis Schroeder kind of reminds me the same as a D'Angelo Russell when D'Angelo Russell was on the Brooklyn Nets. Had the best year, went to Golden State afterwards, and then ended up doing nothing and got traded 6 months after. That's what I'm kind of seeing with Dennis Schroeder.
I see you. I understand the no team basketball, but I mean, I'm just looking at it from a depth perspective. I mean, starting five: Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green. Then on the bench, you got Kevon Looney, you got Gary Payton, you got Dennis Schroeder coming off the bench. Now, I mean, that's a solid 8 guys for me if I'm looking at it.
No, I hear you if that's the way that we're looking at it. But the chances are is that the starting lineup is going to be Dennis Schroeder, Steph Curry, Jonathan Kuminga, and then you have the Kevon Looney and one other. It's not going to be Draymond Green because they're still putting Buddy Hield and Draymond Green on the bench, which still doesn't make sense to me. They're not going to win games like that. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of season left. But at the moment, yeah, good trade. But now you got to do something with it.
Yeah, I think they'll be hovering around middle of the pack, and they're going to make a push come playoff time. I think they might be just playing sneaky ball right now, seeing what's going on in the league. Golden State going to be dangerous if they make the playoffs. We don't talk about them enough. We used to talk about him a lot, but Steph Curry is still Steph Curry, brother. Okay, he can still, in a 4-game series, peek out 4 games and steal 4 games. So, watch out for Golden State moving forward. We have more to talk about. Running through the ticker, we're looking at the NBA Cup Finals next. The Milwaukee Bucks made it there. I don't think Live Zone or myself thought Milwaukee would be in this position. And then the Thunder, I do think both kind of thought they might be in this mix. So Live Zone, Milwaukee versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo might actually win a championship. Too bad that championship doesn't even matter in retrospect of everything. It's a 2-year-old championship. They just get paid a little more. I think they won an NBA Finals more than that. I think they trade 6 NBA Cups for 1 NBA Finals all day of the week. But that's just Live Zone. Not winning this game. What do you see happening? And what does this mean for the rest of the season, if anything, for these teams?
Well, this just really tells me who's going to win the MVP. That's what this means. We're looking at the MVP leaders here, or 2 of the 5 MVP leaders, in Giannis Antetokounmpo going against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like we said, this does not mean anything for record base. This does not mean anything for bragging rights. What this means is who has the best player come January. And that's what I'm seeing. We are looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that's averaging 30 points a game, and we have Giannis that the Bucks can't be a playoff contender without. So for me, I'm looking at this as it's the Thunder's time to win something. They need to bring them out there without feeding them to the wolves. And by the wolves, I don't mean the Timberwolves. I mean the Boston Celtics. So for me, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the Thunder here. They're a young core, young team. I just think that they have more to prove. I think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is on a tear right now, and he needs to keep that going if he wants to win that MVP race, which I do think he will win this year. And then after that, if you have the NBA Cup with it, I mean that's pretty much telling the story there. You won a championship, you're averaging 30 points, the team can't win without you. You are the most reliable piece on the team. We're looking at 2 teams where without their star player, they're not in the spot that they are. And that's what I'm seeing here. So I'm going to take the Thunder. I'm going to say that they're going to win by like 8 points.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup because on the one side with the Bucks, I don't even think they're in a place to be competing for an NBA Finals. Whereas on the other side for the Thunder, I think they could be the team that comes out of the West at the end of the year.
Man.
So it's an interesting dynamic. If the Thunder do end up winning this game, I agree with your point of the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winning the MVP. If he can continue to put up 30 points like he's averaged almost his whole career at this point, and an NBA Cup, and put his team in a top 5 or better position for the playoffs, MVP is pretty much sold up, and then go on a run to prove it even right and make it to an NBA Finals, where I do think he'll be up against a Boston Celtics, because I don't see the Bucks making it there. So it's an interesting matchup. It's 2 different trajectories. On the side of the Bucks, I think it's a really important game for them. I think it's something that Doc Rivers even wants to win, just to show that he can win something in Milwaukee and bring something there, whether it is a constellation championship or not. That's what we're calling it these days, a constellation championship, because that's what it is. It's the middle of the season championship. It don't matter. And that way, they can also use it to show that Dame and Giannis weren't a complete and utter failure. Have something to put in there. Looking at it for what it is, Milwaukee's averaging 113 points per game. Thunder are averaging 116. Thunder are giving 104 points per game. Milwaukee's giving 112. I'm going Thunder based on pure stats of that right there. Thunder give up the second least amount of points per game. They've only scored under 100 points once this year, and they scored 99 in that game. Thunder scored less than 100 points 3 times this year, and severely less than 100 on 1 or 2 of those. So for me, and then you just look at the lineup altogether, I'm trusting Shai and that lineup more than Giannis, Damian all day long. Now, if this game is 2 minutes left, 1 possession game, I am heavily looking for a Damian Lillard game winner to add to the repertoire of game winners.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I can see, like I said, I can see either or. I'm looking at it like this: the Thunder right now are in the first seed. They're 20-5. Last year they were in the first seed as well, and they ended up dropping in the playoffs. I'm kind of expecting that from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the OKC Thunder this year again. I think they're too young to rely on in the playoffs because playoff basketball is a lot different. If you're a basketball fan and you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about. Playoff teams just tend to do better during the playoffs when it matters. And the Thunder have not been that team even before when they had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So because of that, I'm saying, all right, well, it would make sense for them to win. Now, with the Bucks, I do see this being a game that they lose. I agree with you. It's an important game, but I agree that every game for the rest of the season is an important game for the Milwaukee Bucks. Right now, they're in the 6th seed. They're a game behind the top 5, and they want to be in that top 3 seeding where the Orlando Magic are. So, with Doc Rivers actually coaching and him actually taking it serious and Milwaukee actually winning games, because you got to remember 2 weeks ago we were talking about how they were on the 11th or 12th seed. So now that they're up in the 6th seed, now it's all right, it's time to get going. It's time to get going. And I feel like they need a chip on their shoulder to get that going. And then in January, we'll be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks being one of the top 3 seeds in the Eastern Conference. The same way that we were just talking about how the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Celtics are the only teams that really want to play playoff basketball right now. I see that happening with the Bucks come January. They just need to have that chip on their shoulder. So that's the reason why, me personally, I'm taking the OKC Thunder to win this game.
I think we can agree on the OKC Thunder winning this game. Usually when that happens, the other team wins. So don't trust us, but definitely check. Definitely trust Jeff. All right? Figure out, go link up with East Coast Sports Investors. Go get some picks going down. He's got a subscription-based thing. He passes them out. It's really great. It's working for a few of our friends as well. Live Zone. We got more to talk about. We got a lot more coming down the pipeline. But first, we got a little special ad here from Atlanta Steaks.
Yourself. A merry little Christmas night. And have yourself a merry little Christmas.
And we are back. We're talking buckets. Jimmy Buckets. All right. Woo. Looking for another destination, I believe. Live Zone. Jimmy Buckets is available and open for trade. Trade talks, trade rumors, trade discussions, talking to other teams. What kind of value are people giving up for Jimmy Butler these days? What kind of value does he demand? And where do you think he's going to end up going or could possibly go? Or do you think he might even stay in Miami?
He's not staying in Miami, number one. Miami doesn't want to pay him. That's the problem. That's the reason why all these trade rumors are coming up right now, because if Miami can get a deal done where they get a star out of it, then they're going to. But I don't think that that's going to happen either. I think that you're going to get a few key pieces from like young stars that can grow into something for the Miami Heat. But I don't see them going out and getting a certified bucket like Jimmy Buckets. I know he's in year 15. We talked about this. He's 35 years old, but he's still one of the best stars in the league. Like he's at least top 15. I'll give him, but he's still going to be a star on whatever team that he ends up on. And now if we're talking first star or second star, that doesn't really matter to him as long as he's going out and winning games, because that's what he wants to do. So I have 4 teams here for you. I know you got a few teams as well. I'm going to let you give your teams first. We're going to talk about it. And then after that, we're going to go into mine.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I only have a couple teams on here that I'm looking that Jimmy Buckets is probably that might possibly end up on. I do think he's staying in the East. Reason behind that is I think the competition is easier in the East. That's not a knock on Jimmy saying he wants to take the easy way out. I'm just saying if he looks at it, there are a couple of teams with winning potential in the East that he would put to another level, maybe even elevate to a level that they couldn't have gotten to, and be in the playoff race much easier than a 8 to 10 deep division in the Western Conference. You know what I'm saying? It's much tougher for Jimmy Buckets to hop on a team out there and be in playoff contention and finish with a 500 record and be a 9 seed. Whereas in the Eastern Conference, if you finish with a 500 record, you might even be a 7, 8 seed. You know what I'm saying? Maybe possibly even a 6 seed. That's how different the leagues are or the conferences are at this point going on. So number one team that I think would be an interesting look if they could make the trade happen would be a Milwaukee trade. Put Jimmy Buckets over there, get Middleton out of there, maybe a couple other pieces. I don't know if you throw a Bobby Portis in there and get another person from Miami, or you throw a couple draft picks in there and just get Jimmy Buckets. But either way, if you can make that trade happen, Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jimmy Buckets is a force to be reckoned with, okay? Another option that I am looking at is a team that we're going to talk about later in the episode as are they legit? And I believe that they made this move, they could be legit, and that's the Atlanta Hawks. If the Atlanta Hawks can acquire Jimmy Buckets, trade off a Bogdanovich, love that name, top tier. If they could swap out him, maybe a couple, or maybe a young player or a couple draft picks as well, get something that the Heat like. Jimmy Buckets on that offense would be dangerous. It's already putting up points. It's already shown that it can beat a Celtics team. It can play with a Knicks team. It can play with a Milwaukee Bucks team. It can beat the good teams in the Eastern Conference as well as play with teams from the Western Conference. If they added a Jimmy Buckets to that, they only get better. I think that puts them in a tier with the Knicks if they did acquire a Jimmy Buckets. I don't think it quite puts them in a Cavaliers or a Celtics position, but I could see it putting them in a Knicks position. So either one of those teams I think would be really great for Jimmy Buckets, and I think it'd be really great for the league, but I don't see him going to the West. I think you have some people on the West for him to go to, so I'm eager to hear why, who and why, but that's my two teams.
All right. Yeah, I agree with Atlanta. Milwaukee's interesting. I just don't think that they have enough to give out. I'll give you mine 1 through 4 here, and this is in order. Number 1, I have the Golden State Warriors. They're making trades. They want to move on. They want to, get better in when it comes to playoff time and everything like that. They need a second star because they don't have Klay Thompson anymore. What better way to get a second star than to bring Jimmy Butler in and put him at the position that he should be, because he won't be playing small forward there. He'll be playing shooting guard. Therefore, you could move Buddy Hield to the small forward place, and then after that, you're 4 and 5 depending on who you want there. So I like Jimmy Butler in a Golden State Warriors uniform. I think it fits. I think
Yeah.
him and Curry.
I mean,
You talked about how Giannis. You talked about how Giannis, Dame, and Butler would be a force to reckon with. Curry and Butler alone would be a force to reckon with. That's a team that you can't count out. They're both getting older. They're both in win now mode. They want to win championships. What perfect way to bring 2 guys together that want to win than to have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler on one team. Now, as for trade-wise, I don't know what that looks like. You have to give up some young pieces, obviously, like Podemski, or I can't pronounce his name. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, Podemski, or but you also have Kuminga. Kuminga could also be a trade option. I know you want to keep him because he's a key piece to your championship core, but if you have to get rid of him for a guy like Jimmy Butler, you're going to. Maybe a few picks. You have now 3 second-round picks in the next 3 years. So, I mean, maybe you go after that. But there's a lot of things that could happen, a lot of moves that could be made where they still end up with their starting 5 plus Jimmy Butler. So, I mean, if you look at it realistically, they could give up Draymond for him because they put him on the bench. So there's a lot of ways that could end up working if you want to keep a guy like Kuminga on your lineup. So, number 1, I have the Warriors. Number 2, I have the Rockets. The Rockets are pissed that they did not get into the finals for the NBA Cup. The owner says that he doesn't want to get rid of his core, his young core, but not having a star shows why that they need one, especially in that NBA Cup game. I understand where they're coming from. Houston Rockets could match up Sengun with a guy like Jimmy Butler, where Jimmy Butler loves to go to these guys down low because that's where he plays most often. So if they're double teaming Jimmy Butler, he could give it off to Sengun. Sengun then gives it off to a guy for the 3-point shot, like a Jalen Green or something like that. There's a lot of ways that they could go. I'm seeing Jabari Smith as the guy that is going to be out of Rockets uniform if they do that. I mean, me personally, I think that Jabari Smith hasn't lived up to the hype that he was supposed to live up to, being a top 3 pick in his draft class. So therefore, I could see them doing that. And with Miami trying to get younger, it would be a good piece. It would be a good move for Jabari Smith to actually get a new place, new face, be the star of the team with Tyler Hero. It could end up working out for both teams. But I'm liking Houston Rockets as the main destination right now. Number 3, I have Atlanta. Like you said, Trae Young and Jimmy Butler. That's something that you have to watch out for. Jalen Johnson as well. Those 3 together would be 110% a force to reckon with. It would be a team to watch out for in the East that, like you said, if Jimmy Butler goes to, you could see the likes of a New York Knicks seeding where they're top 3, top 4 seeding in the Eastern Conference, which we have not seen Trae Young do yet. And then number 4, I'm going to give this to you. All right. I'm not going to give this to you based off of trade. I'm not going to give this to you based off of the players behind it. I'm going to give this based off to you off of Jimmy Butler's mindset. Jimmy Butler has given Miami everything that he could have given them in the last 3 years. Or last 4 years, last 5 years, whatever it is that Jimmy Butler has been on the Miami Heat. He has given blood, sweat, and tears to that team and been the star that they needed when Dwayne Wade was out in retirement. He was the guy that picked up the ball. Now that they haven't won a championship and Jimmy Butler is getting a little bit older, they want to give up on Jimmy Butler and not sign him to a max contract, knowing that he's the only certified star on the team. Why not go right down the road to the Orlando Magic? Build a rivalry between the 2 Florida teams. There's a lot of young pieces in Orlando. I could see them getting the job done, getting rid of a guy like Franz Wagner. I could see them getting rid of a guy like Franz Wagner, give the point guard space to Jalen Suggs. You then have Jimmy Butler at the shooting guard position, Paulo Banchero at the small forward. You still have Wendell Carter Jr. at the center, and Jonathan Isaac at the 4. It could end up being a very lengthy team that could end up making a run in the playoffs, knowing that they're the 3rd seed right now. So, therefore, I'm just putting that out there with the Orlando Magic and knowing Jimmy Butler's mindset. But I don't think that will happen. I think the most realistic spots are the Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors. But the Orlando Magic is something just to look at.
I like it. Orlando's sneaky. I'm loving Golden State if they can make that happen, especially if they can keep Schroeder. But maybe now I'm thinking maybe they slid Schroeder over there to maybe deal him as well, to have him in the back pocket so they could ship him off to Miami, maybe include him in a package. Little Draymond and Schroeder for Jimmy Buckets.
Yep.
That might. I don't like Rockets for Jimmy Butler's sake. I understand the move for them strategically, but I don't like it for Jimmy Butler's sake.
Houston is 1 or 2 pieces away.
That he came into originally.
Houston is 1 or 2 pieces away from being a championship contender.
Absolutely. But I don't think it's the right scenario for Jimmy Buckets. And then who's the last one?
Atlanta and Orlando.
Atlanta, obviously, I agree with them on that wave as well. So, how much you think Jimmy Buckets is worth nowadays, though?
I think he's worth it.
Okay.
I would say right around it. Yeah, he's in that age where he's still being productive and still a star, but he's getting a little bit older. I would say that he falls off around, knowing how the NBA plays nowadays, around 40. So, I mean, he's still got 5 years left where he's being productive. I think he's worth it.
I hope so. I love me some Jimmy Buckets. I hate when he plays the Celtics, but I love when he plays everybody else. Jimmy, I hope you find a home, and I hope you get a chip before you get out the league, for real. We have more going down on the pod. We got trade rumors involving Memphis. We're going to have over there live zone. I need you to explain what's going down with these trade rumors. What are we looking at? What is up for grabs? Who's getting what? Is it going to go through? What?
Well, I mean, it looks like it's interested on both sides, and I understand why. The Chicago Bulls and the Memphis Grizzlies are talking about a trade surrounding Nikola Vucevic, one of the best centers in the league, quiet center at that, and Chicago's trying to get younger. That's what's happening. They have a guy like Josh Giddey that they can trust in the process of rebuilding, and he's young, so they're trying to build pieces around him that are younger. So when 2028, 2029 comes, they're in the playoff talks with their young core that they decided to piece together. Now, what that means is guys like Alonzo are going to be on the market. Guys like Vucevic are going to be on the market, and guys like Levine are going to be on the market. So far, the only one that I've heard that has mutual interest in both sides is Nikola Vucevic. Now, the trade with the Grizzlies that we're looking at is the Memphis Grizzlies are going to get Nikola Vucevic, and then after that, the Chicago Bulls are going to get a young center in Brandon Clark. They're going to get John Kochar, and they're going to get a top 10 protected 2027 first rounder in what could be a huge benefit for a Chicago Bulls team that's looking to get more picks in the future. I look at this and I look at Chicago's not in win now mode, but they wanna win games. So they're having trouble getting rid of their core to then go into rebuild mode. But now they have Josh Giddey, that's a young stud, and now they're like, all right, well, now we have a piece that we can build around the same way that the Boston Celtics built around Isaiah Thomas back in 2016. That's what I'm seeing for the Chicago Bulls right now. And then Memphis is in win now mode. They want to get Ja into the playoffs or into the finals. And like I said at the beginning of the season, if they get a trade or if they get a piece in the trade deadline, they're going to be up there with the Dallas Mavericks. It's going to happen. And right now in the Western Conference, they're a top 5 seeding. So, I mean, they're, like I said, they're one trade piece away, and this could be the trade piece that ends up being the breaker for the Memphis Grizzlies to get where they should be as long as Ja can stay healthy. So, I don't know how you're feeling about the trade. I'm loving the trade. Grizzlies are now second seed at 18-8, 2 games behind the OKC Thunder. We talked about how the OKC Thunder dropped down at the end of the year. Memphis could take the first seed.
I mean, I couldn't have said it much better than everything that you said going down with it. I think this trade could make the Memphis Grizzlies what I thought the Memphis Grizzlies should have been about 2-3 years ago. If it wasn't for the Ja Morant fumbling on the social media, going through his injuries, rehabbing back, and blah, blah, blah. Now we're here 2 years later from all of that. What are we doing? Jackson on the team. Like, I love the team as a whole. I love the team as a whole. I think they could be a great team. Second place is right where I think they should be. I didn't look at the standings today, and I'm shocked they're in the second place. But if they can make this trade happen, I do think it's a solidified second place. I don't think it's just jumbled up. 1 game loss puts me at 8 seed, and I could be the second seed tomorrow. No, I think to go on a run and stay number 2, 1-2 position. And I think that could be very beneficial for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think they play much better at home than on the road. I believe that home court will do them greatly throughout the playoffs. And also, being a top seed just gives them the confidence that maybe Ja Morant has been lacking. from everything that has happened. He's been knocked off his pedestal, and now we're here. So yes, I do think this trade could be great. But again, we're just gonna have to see. That's all. That's all we can do with these things.
Now, another thing that I do want to mention is we talk about how deep teams are. Now, look at this team on how it is by itself. Now, adding Vucevic over minus Brandon Clark. So, I mean, they're probably a little bit deeper now that they got two centers that they can rely on if they get Vucevic in this trade deal. Their starting lineup alone will be John Morant at the 1, Marcus Smart at the 2. Then you have Desmond Bane at the 3, Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 4, and then Vucevic at the 5. And then off of the bench, you also have to worry about Zach Edey as well, that everybody's forgetting about because he's not the big star that everybody thought he was going to be, but he's still putting up productive minutes for the Memphis Grizzlies. This team could make a run in the Western Conference.
It's a dangerous team. Could be very dangerous come playoff time. I've been thinking that for a while. I haven't come publicly and said it because I've been worried about John Morant and all that. But watch out for Memphis. Watch out for Memphis. We have one more topic to go on to today, but first, I want to give it off to Viva. Let him say a little word on our sponsor.
Jared, hey, we're gonna need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
And we are back just like that. We got one more thing to talk about tonight, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. We talked about them a little bit with the Jimmy Butler situation going on, saying they could be a threat in the Eastern Conference if they make that happen. But if they don't make it happen, are they still a legitimate team in this Eastern Conference? We've seen them play up to the Celtics level, up to the Bucks level, up to the Knicks level, up to all the teams above them's level and play with them and even beat some of them. So should we take this Atlanta team seriously, or are they just succeeding in a league where everybody's shooting threes and they're making them?
All right, so I'm going to say firsthand that I know this is coming up because Trae Young just did one hell of a performance against the New York Knicks. I understand that. He's been going off of a tier 110%. I don't want to take anything away from Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks and what they've been doing, but last week they were the 4th seed, and now this week they are now the 7th seed. They're 2 games out of the top 5 seeding in the Eastern Conference, but then again, we talk about how there's only a few teams that want to play playoff basketball right now in the Eastern Conference. I think that Trae Young is one of those guys that is playing up to that level, but his team is not. I'm going to give you a few stats here. Trae Young, 36.1 minutes a game, 22 points a game, 4 rebounds, and 12 assists a game. That's playoff numbers. That is MVP numbers heading over from Trae Young. This is their second best player on a game basis. Jalen Johnson, which is a 4-year player that came out of nowhere this year, is now averaging 36.6 minutes. So he's averaging 0.5 more minutes than Trae Young. And then he's averaging 19.6 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. good numbers from those two guys. After that, the next best guy is averaging 8 points a game, and that's Clint Capella. Team's not ready to win games. They got a few studs. They're going to be fine. They're going to be in the playoffs, but they got a lot of building to do around those two studs. So if they want to make this happen, they either need to make a few trades, draft a little bit better in the next few years, get a guy in free agency that you can rely on, get a few role players that you can rely on. You need to do something to give Trae Young a better chance to make a run in the playoffs. I do think that they're legit. I think that they'll be a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. But how far does that go up? Because realistically, I don't see them on the same level as Boston Celtics or Cleveland Cavaliers. So, they can run with the New York Knicks. They can run with a team that's Orlando Magic. They can run with these other teams like Milwaukee Bucks. But when you get past those 3 teams and you have to meet the big guns, I feel like that's where it falls off for the Atlanta Hawks. Nothing to take away from Atlanta. They just need to start building more off of what they have.
No, absolutely. When it comes to the top 4 seeds in the East, it's going to have to take a move for a new team to hop into that top 4. I do see Atlanta finishing a 5-6 on the year, making the playoffs, yes, but ultimately not being able to make a run. You have to win 4 in these series. And, I don't see Atlanta against the Celtics. Celtics win 4 before Atlanta wins 4. If against Milwaukee wins 4 before Atlanta wins 4.
That's
New York Knicks versus Atlanta. I think New York Knicks win 4 before Atlanta wins 4. On top of it, you can look at the Magic the same way, and you can look at the Cleveland Cavaliers the same way. So, again, like you said, I think when if it's a series base, they're not going anywhere, and come playoff time, they're a 5-6 seed that's going home round 1 or 2.
Yeah, well, that's what I see. I personally think that they can beat the New York Knicks. I seeing what Trae Young does against the Knicks every year. I mean, you could put up a goon squad against Trae Young, and if they're in New York uniforms, Trae Young is gonna win. It is what it is. He plays best when he's in Madison Square Garden for some reason. But when it comes down to it, like you said, Orlando, I'm taking Orlando every time. Boston, I'm taking Boston every time. Cleveland, I'm taking Cleveland every time. Milwaukee is iffy. Milwaukee, it's a 50-50 series. But like I said, when it comes to those three top seeds in the Eastern Conference, I don't see Atlanta getting it done. That's just me personally. Now, I do want to say, what would it look like if we did see another star go to Atlanta? What would it look like if Atlanta did get a little bit role players? I don't think it's a player problem because you have your 2 stars. You have 2 of your 3. Now you just need to build on top of that. I think it's more of a management problem than anything. But once again, what are they going to do in the offseason that they haven't done? They had DeJounte Murray. They let him go to the New Orleans Pelicans. So what are we going to see Atlanta do and make a move, then get a aging Clint Capella another contract that's worth $16 million? That's what it comes down to.
We got to see. We got to see how it pans out. Atlanta, Ice Trae, always going to be doing his thing, though. We always going to be doing our thing. It's Live Zone and it's Mozzie. We're rocking with you for the holidays with the new set. We love when you tune in. We love to chop it up. We'll be back with football coming up in this week. It's going to be me and Live Zone from now on. You can count on that. We're not missing anymore. It's both of us together. Shout out to East Sports Investors. Go check them out. Check out the bets. Check out Bets Live. Check out Closing Bell. Check out Breakfast Bankroll. Look at the subscription if it's something you want. Could be something to help you get some extra money for the Christmas time too. Could be a nice move. Live Zone, where can they find you at?
You can find me on X. You can find me on Instagram, official Live Zone. You could also find me on TikTok as well, Real Live Zone. If you just look up Live Zone Sports, you should be able to find us. You can find us on East Coast Sports Investors every week. Like you said, Monday is Bets Live. Tuesday will be the Extra Point. Friday will be Live Five List, where we bring sports history that a lot of people don't bring. So don't make sure you don't miss that. And then Sunday, as always, you will see us here for Dynamics on the Hardwood. You have Jeff's shows every day. You got the closing bell. You got breakfast bankroll. You got everything in between there. So make sure you're checking that out. Like I said on the description, we go live at least 10 times a week between our shows and Jeff's shows. So just make sure you're staying tuned and make sure that you're staying up with all the bet information, all the NBA and NFL news, all the sports history, everything in between like that. Got merch coming as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That's in the works, so there's a lot coming.
We'll see you soon. As always, stay tuned.